Here at Two Paddocks, we never feel like we're in competition with other peanut producers. In fact, we love other peanut producers. One of the other peanut producers that we particularly like is an outfit called 10 Minutes by Tractor. They're in Australia. And they call their vineyard 10 Minutes by Tractor. It's the coolest possible name. I wish I'd thought of it myself, because it takes 10 minutes to drive by tractor from one of their vineyards to another. And I thought it would be fun, since it's a bit of a quiet day for me, to go by my tractor from this vineyard, from Red Bank, to the Last Chance, which is just over there, and see how long it takes.
Everybody's talking at me. I don't hear words they're saying, only the echoes of my mind. People stopping still, I can't see their faces, only the shadows corners of their eyes. I'm going where the sun keeps shining through the pouring rain. Going where the weather suits my clothes. Banking off of the northeast winds, sailing on summer breeze, and skipping over the ocean like a stone. I'm going where the sun keeps shining through the pouring rain. Going where
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, officer.
May I see your license, please?
It's a lawnmower, I don't need a license.
Could you step off the vehicle and go round the front? Place your hands on the bonnet. Quickly. Spread them. Come on, wider. I'm going to pat you down and I won't touch skin.
Free to go. Don't do it again.
I'm driving my blue car, baby, down from the mountain so high. I'm driving my blue car, baby, down from the mountain so high. I'm driving my blue car, baby, coming down, gonna say goodbye. The sunrise is a miracle, but I can't hold a candle to you.
So, here we are at our beloved Last Chance Vineyard. I've reached the end of my odyssey. Red Bank, where we came from, is over there in that notch in the hills. It's probably taken me a little bit longer than the 10 minutes I estimated. In fact, by my watch, it's taken 9.5 months. Still, it's like life, isn't it? It's never about the destination. It's all about the journey.
To strike the tall pine trees, and the birds are meant to cry, wheel in the breeze. But some things, babe, I guess they just ain't meant to be.
heartache and rage. Come see our bodies burning like old big sun. Everybody want romance. Everybody want comfort. Everybody but me. I'm laying on fire, walking down your street. Without one guitar, to the dancing feet. Only one desire is still in me. On the whole world to come dance with me.
We're going up to see the chickens. Come on, Chooks. Chook, chook. Chook, 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 chook. Come on, Chooks. Chook, chook. Up here. Come on. Come on. Come on. Chook, chook. Chook, chook. Chook. All kinds of rare old breeds. Come on, Chook. Chook, chook. Chook, chook. They just have to look good. Eggs are secondary. Look at that beautiful rooster there. It's just a gorgeous thing. Come on, Chook. Come on, Chook. Fantastic, aren't they?
Oh, did you just cough?
Who are you?
I'm your common sense, Mr. Anxiety.
I don't have anxiety.
Oh, really? Have you had a good look at yourself lately? I mean, listen, dark circles under the eyes. Sorry, you look like shit.
Oh, God, do I?
What? Not sleeping?
There's a lot to worry about, you know? All this pandemic stuff.
Oh! Ow! Oh!
What'd you do that for?
For being an idiot.
Well, how does that make me an idiot? Have you seen what's on the... Oh! Ow! Why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep kicking me?
Only an idiot worries about things they can do nothing about.
This is like nothing we've ever... Oh!
Listen, idiot, come here. You're doing everything. You're safe distancing. You're sanitising as if there's no tomorrow. I mean, what more can you do?
But I'm worried about what might... Ow!
Might?
Ow!
Might? I don't want to hear that stupid word again. Do you hear me? Just one day at a time. Repeat after me. I am alive.
I'm alive.
We will get through this.
We will get through this.
One day at a time.
One day at a time.
Right. You feel better?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I do. But, what if... Ow! Stop, I get it. I have to stop worrying, I get it, I promise.
Honestly, you had it coming. Dropped a stitch.
Okay. No, it makes sense. I will not worry about what I cannot control. Good. Yeah. Bye.
Good morning again, and we welcome all our Zoom Business Breakfast guests from nearly every Australian state, from the North and South Islands of New Zealand, and our very special guests from the Caribbean and the USA. I am Dr. Darryl Moran, the immediate past president of the Rotary Club of Rowville Listerfield and the District Governor nominee for District 9810 in Melbourne, Australia. I'll be one of your co-hosts for this special event this morning, and it's my great pleasure to also welcome our other co-host.
Thanks, Darryl, and good morning, everyone. What a great way to start our day. My name is Mark Veazey, and I'm a member of the Rowville Listerfield Rotary Club. On behalf of all members, we welcome everyone and thank you for attending. We are really excited to present such an event, and we sincerely thank Sam for making it happen.
You have described yourself as a vigneron, as a farmer, and an itinerant actor. You were born in Northern Ireland, you're a citizen of New Zealand, but can you tell us how the current pandemic has affected your film commitments and has left you living in sunny Sydney? We're from Melbourne, so we say the word sunny Sydney with our tongue in our cheeks, Sam.
Yeah, it's affected us all, obviously, and some people worse than others. I'm actually going back to work in about 3 weeks' time. I'm going to, this is assuming that my snuffles this morning are just hay fever and and not the coronavirus, which would be a disaster. But we're going to London, and we're a little bit like the canary in the mine in that we are going to be the first full-scale film production really in the world. Although I think Avatar is probably starting in New Zealand, but we will be filming under what is normal conditions everywhere else. That's to say there's a pandemic running about. We'll be locked down for about 4 months in what I hope are comfortable circumstances in a hotel out near Pinewood, and we're shooting on what was always known as the James Bond set, which I've worked on before, the most enormous soundstage in the world, I think. So all the dinosaurs are starting to run around again, and I'll be sort of reunited with my friends Jeff Goldblum and Laura Dern. Aside from that, it's obviously affected the vineyard. We were very fortunate in that the New Zealand government gave us a dispensation because, work stopped on everything. It was unlike Australia where construction and quite a lot of things were allowed to continue during the lockdown, but in New Zealand, everything closed down. But it coincided with the harvest, and the New Zealand government realized that this would be a complete calamity for the wine industry if we weren't allowed to work as normal. So luckily, rules were relaxed and we were allowed to continue and actually get our grapes off the vine. So that in itself was quite a challenge because we had to socially distance while we're picking grapes and so on. So it was quite a clumsy procedure, but we managed to get through it all right.
But that's great, and I'm sure, says I with my tongue in my cheek, the Australian Pinot Noir industry are extremely pleased that you've been able to pick your New Zealand Pinot Noir grapes. We're looking forward to that. Look, let's talk about the wine. Your two paddocks vineyard is in central Otago.
Yeah.
It's New Zealand's South Island, based in the most inland and elevated southerly wine growing area of New Zealand. Now, we understand that frosts are a hazard and the soil type sometimes makes the land surface a bit hard to work. So what attracted you in 1993 to choose to plant Pinot Noir grapes in that seemingly difficult location?
Yeah, it's an odd one, given that Pinot Noir is the... Are you all having breakfast as well, like me?
Please, no. Look, well, your comrades in New Zealand are probably having morning tea, I should imagine.
Yeah, that's right.
We're a little unsure. You have to understand, we've got some people watching us from New York and also from the Caribbean. So in the Caribbean, it's just cocktail hour yesterday, Sam.
Yeah.
So the sight of you having breakfast is probably a little strange.
In the Caribbean, they're on their third bottle of rum. I'm on blackberries and blueberries and raspberries and what we like to call Paleolithic food.
Great.
I just eat it because it's delicious.
Look, feel free to have your breakfast. But look, can we return to why you chose that area, Sam?
Well, I fell in love with New Zealand with my parents, my father was New Zealand and we returned to New Zealand when I was 7. We lived in Dunedin, and in the winter holidays, we'd go on holiday to Queenstown and we'd ski. That's in Central Otago. And we would also go camping in the summer. So I fell in love with that landscape. I fell in love with Central Otago in a way that you never really recover from that. And when my filming career became relatively successful, I was able to buy some land down there, and I built a house. A great friend of mine, Rolf Mills, a friend of the family's actually, Rolf had started planting grapes in near Wanaka at Ripon Vineyards, and the grapes, he planted everything. He planted, Shiraz and all sorts of unfortunate things that really didn't work. But he planted 2 things that really stood out, and one was Pinot Noir. Now, Pinot Noir, I fell in love with when I was working in London. I lived in London for 7 or 8 years, and I'd been introduced to Pinot Noir, and I just thought it was the most wonderful wine I'd ever tasted. And then it struck me as extraordinary that in this place that I was now living, friends were now beginning to grow the grape that I love the best. So in 93, I found some land and I planted my first vineyard. And in this most difficult area, with the most difficult grape that there is to grow. But the thing about Pinot Noir is actually, curiously, because it's a thin-skinned grape, it's actually quite easy to grow, oddly enough, in propitious circumstances. So you have to grow it in circumstances that are not propitious. You have to grow it where it's tough to ripen, and it's also you know, you're because you're very southerly. We're halfway to the Antarctic. We're on the 45th, and you're prone to all kinds of things like frosts. Frosts are our biggest enemy, and so that's the thing about growing Pinot Noir. You must grow in a marginal area, and the Mornington Peninsula, for instance, if you're looking at Australia, the Mornington Peninsula produces some very good Pinots, but you wouldn't grow Shiraz there particularly. Those big Australian reds are not suitable for that sort of marginality. So, yeah, that's what took me to Central Otago. I'm still in love with the place. The project got out of hand. I now have 4 vineyards, and it's completely absorbed my life. And it became a sort of crazed ambition, really, to make the best wine in the world, and that's the sort of story in short. But it's now 93, so we're getting on for 25 years, and it's been a wonderful journey, I have to say. You know.
Sam, just from what you're saying, it's very, very challenging, obviously, to grow the Pinot Noir grapes. But you're also a committed organic and holistic farmer that produces the best expression of your vineyard and care for the soils, the animals and the people. Can you take us through some of the practical applications of these principles in your farming practice?
Yeah, again, organic farming is another folly because it's much more... it's much pricier to do than conventional farming. You can take a lot of shortcuts with conventional grape growing, with spraying agrochemicals over everything, and you know, your weeds are looked after. You don't have to worry about disease pressure, and all these things are shortcut. But I started to become. I'd actually. Years ago, when I was at university, I got a job working for an agricultural contractor in Southland, and he was, and we were spraying on gorse and other such weeds what effectively was Agent Orange, and we didn't have anything like protective clothing. I think it was called Tordon. It was a terrible chemical. And he used to boast that he could kill cabbages in people's gardens if the wind was the right way, and it usually is windy in New Zealand, from about 10 kilometres away. If he got drifted towards town, people would be there, the cabbages would be dying. And that was when I realised that actually big chemical companies aren't necessarily working for the benefit of not just the planet, but the people that work with them. I'm sort of amazed that I'm alive, because I was covered in these chemicals all day, you know. It was a pretty haphazard process. But so when, as soon as it was practical, it's quite hard to establish a vineyard in an organic sense. We had to be non-organic for a little while we got our grapes, our vines established. But we use all sorts of things as an alternatives to that sort of thing. But mostly we use labor. Everything, so much has to be done by hand, and we've estimated that every vine gets visited by a pair of hands 13 or 14 times a year. That's with the pruning and all that sort of thing. So it's very, very labor intensive, but we use other techniques too we use a sort of holistic approach on the vineyard. I have about, at any one time, about a dozen cattle. Highland cattle are particularly prized for this purpose. And we have a thing called a poo pit, which is where we gather up all the cow shit and we put it in this pit. And then we mix it up with seaweed and silica and so on. And the idea is that anything you're growing in the soil ultimately depletes that soil. So we're returning stuff to the soil and making it more vigorous, more richer and more full of living. Someone once described, when you're standing on soil, you're actually standing on the roof of a whole other universe. All those little microorganisms that are at work in there, and the earthworms and things, that's what's producing healthy soil. And I really, there's other things that we do. For instance, one of the other enemies that we have is a thing called leaf roller, which is a little grub that gets into the leaves and does a lot of damage. Well, what we do is we plant friendly. You can always tell the difference in a conventional vineyard and an organic vineyard. An organic vineyard usually looks a little untidy, whereas a conventional vineyard looks like the German army have been there, because it's all just bare land, and but under the vines in a conventional vineyard, there's all sorts of weeds growing. So we have to, use our hands on that. But we grow in between these crops, like I think it was psyllium and oats, and we look like sort of 3 layers of crops underneath. Then we mulch them and put them into the soil. But before that, they've attracted a little thing called a parasitic wasp, and the parasitic wasp lives on the leaf roller thing that is attacking our vines. So there are other ways around these things other than using chemicals that are going to give you cancer, that are going to be bad for my workers, and ultimately produce a wine that I don't think is healthy for anybody.
Okay, so that
my
helps.
Goodness.
Sorry, Mark.
No, I was just going to say it's not only organic, but my goodness me, it's very intensive, isn't it, Sam? But we'll give you a bit of a lighter question here. We have a question from one of our webinar guests, Patrice Robinson, a Rotarian and the incoming District Governor of District 9630 in Queensland.
Oh, the big pineapple. I've seen the big pineapple. Fantastic.
It's her birthday today, so she was pretty chuffed that she'll be watching this today. But her question is where were you when man first landed on the moon?
I was it was my last year at university. I was living in a flat with 3 other dirt poor blokes. We had a lot of fun. We certainly couldn't afford a television. And I remember going around to some friend's parents' place and we watched it there. But yeah, what a year, 1969. And of course, we made a film about this, The Dish.
Oh,
and 1969 seemed to be, I'm slightly nostalgic for it, I have to say, in that it seemed like anything was possible back then. I was just about to embark on life. We'd landed on the moon. It was possible to see an end to the Vietnam War. That was something that was very upsetting for us at this point in time. No, life looked like a great thing. That's an interesting question. I haven't been asked that before.
Okay, look, that's great. We'll give you a chance to have a bit more of your cereal because.
You're right. I'm pouring the tea.
Well, excellent, excellent. Well, that film, The Dish, is just hilarious. It really encapsulates that laconic humour of New Zealanders and Australians. I think my favourite part is when you're just farewelling the American ambassador, having given him a tour of the dish, and he goes out of shot, and that tennis ball rolls off, and you catch it, symbolising that you blokes are playing cricket up there on the dish on this very important American. I think it's just fantastic. We'll talk about your movies in a little while. Can we just return? So you touched on the Pinot Noir. So part of the difficulty in growing them is that harvesting. You've got to return to it. You said 14 times during the process.
During the growing year, and that starts with pruning, obviously, and then there's tying back and another thing we do, of course, is actually it's a light flavored wine. So heartbreakingly, we have to drop at least half of our fruit off every vine. So you go on cutting off all this fruit in order to get a full concentration into the bunches that you're leaving. So the tonnage that we get is probably a third of what you might expect from perhaps Shiraz or Sauvignon Blanc or something like that. So if you see a good bottle of Pinot Noir in your bottle, there's a reason that it costs a little more than everything else. And if it's a organic bottle, whatever it costs, keep it the price.
Some of us are going to enjoy some of your product at lunchtime in Australia today, Sam, and we can attest to your statement about the price, but be fantastic, I'm sure.
Actually, we'll swing on to some of the movies now, Sam. In your acting roles, you become immersed in the characters that you play, like John Ingram in the thriller Dead Calm, to Michael Chamberlain in the very emotive Evil Angels, to grumpy Uncle Hector in The Hunt of the Wilder People. How do you prepare for these roles, and how hard is it to step out of the character afterwards?
Look, I'm not one of those actors. There are a few that stay in. Dan Day-Lewis, for instance, is famous for this. He becomes this character at the beginning of filming, and I'm told Benedict Cumberbatch is now doing this. I both know them a bit, and they remain in their character until filming has ended. Now, I find that slightly. I just couldn't be bothered. So, as soon as they say cut, I'm back to myself. But I do like to spend just a minute or two being quiet before we, because you have a lot of fun on sets. There's a lot of joking and mucking about, because which is necessary, because filming can be pretty dull. And the rule of thumb is the more action in a film, the more boring they are to make, because you're usually just sitting around waiting for the next thing to happen, and it takes ages for the next thing to happen. If it's a car, jumping over another car, that thing takes all day, and you're just sitting around waiting for the stunt guy to not kill himself. And I can't watch stunts because they just give me the willies. So there is a lot of sitting around, and a lot of fun can be had. So I don't stay in character all the time. I snap out of it as soon as they say cut. But I just like those a minute or two just to sort of get my concentration going and get back into that character. And I usually have a little motto that it sustains me, that gets me straight back into character. I saw that all those posters there that you had of
Yes.
what I've done. I remember when we were doing the piano. It's a horrible character, abusive and all that stuff. And but I think you always have to have some sort of empathy towards your character. Otherwise, you can't just regard the person that you're playing as an outright villain, and you just look like a sort of two-dimensional villain. But you've got to get sort of inside the character and work out why he is that way. And I always thought that character had a miserable childhood, and that he was very vulnerable. It's like he had. The phrase I had was, "You don't have enough layers of skin." It's like, some people, I think we have 5 or 6 layers of skin or something. I always felt he had 2 layers of skin. So he was always very, very vulnerable. Yeah. And touchy.
Yes. Okay. We can understand that. And you certainly show that in The Wilder People as Uncle Hector. Great film. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, you've been involved. You've had a wide variety of roles. We just saw some of that in the montage there. You've been an actor, a writer, and director, and producer. Do you have a special preference for any of those areas? And do you see yourself, moving away from acting in front of the camera to going behind the camera to a greater extent?
No, I've directed 1 or 2 things, and I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it again. It's too much hard work. And it's very absorbing. The last thing I directed, I was just, the problem with being a director is everyone wants to know something from you. Everyone's got a question. You've got to answer every question. And it's a 24/7 job. When I'm acting on a film, I go back to the hotel or where I'm staying and just think about the next day. But it's exhausting. It's exhausting directing.
Sorry.
I've got no intention of retiring. I don't know what I'd do with myself with retiring, apart from farming. I don't like golf. I know a lot of Rotarians are very keen on golf, but I can't stand it.
They often say that golf is a good walk ruined, don't they?
Yes, they do. Yeah, and I believe that to be so. And it can ruin good friendships too. I like walking with friends. But if you're competing with your friend, who's also trying to put you off as you're teeing off, that can put a terrible strain on relationships. I don't recommend golf.
It can. Look, returning to our film theme, I might have mentioned that, again, we've got some guests on our webinar this morning from Australia, New Zealand, New York, and in the Caribbean. So here's a question from a Rotarian, and her name is Rebecca Lowe. And she's a Canadian, and she's living in the Caribbean.
Yeah, look at all that rum. Yeah, just as I expected.
She tells us, she's a member of the Rotary Club, and the Rotary Club are having this is when they're having their Seniors Appreciation Day. This is on the island of the island of Saint Martin in the Caribbean. She said that she learned to sail by crossing the Atlantic with 2 strangers on a 40-foot boat. And the night before they left a few years ago, what film did they watch, Mr. Neill? Dead Calm. She said she was terrified for the whole trip. Thank you very much, Mr. Neill.
That would be a mistake. At the end of the voyage. By the way, I've seen St. Martin from over the way. Where was I staying? It was over in the distance, and I always meant to go over there and have a look. But what a beautiful part of the world.
Look, it is. And when you get old enough, Sam, you'll be able to go to St. Martin and go to Seniors Appreciation Day. But let's get to Rebecca's question. So tomorrow actually is her birthday in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And her special question is this. Thinking about all of your movies and documentaries that have been set on water, do you have any memorable filming incidents or encounters that stand out for you?
The most memorable, I took a year off 2 or 3 years ago to do a series on Captain Cook. Well, not on Captain Cook, but on the Pacific and following in the wake of Captain Cook. 6-part series, documentary series. And in the course of that, of course, we're at sea a lot. But the greatest thing of all was we got to swim with whales. This is something that's not allowed in most parts of the world, but in Tonga, there are 2 or 3 boats you can go out, and the whales are used to it. And it seemed to me the whales rather like it. And so I put on my snorkel. A juvenile male had come up and flapped his wing in the air. So we went over. And it's clear when you arrive whether they're interested in playing with you or not. And my buddy said, "Get your snorkel on." Over the side we went. We plunge into all these bubbles, and the water is gin clear. And there's this whale down there, sort of looking over it. He does a circle, and then, to my complete alarm and astonishment, he started to surface up beside us, and his little eye, like that, looked straight into my eye, and he just stayed there for about half a minute. I was hyperventilating through my snorkel, going, is he going to kill me or something? Has he read Moby Dick?
Yes.
And then he just sort of, he rolled away, and his great big flipper came past me. They must have a great spatial sense, because the flipper went past me by inches like that. This enormous flipper, I don't know, they're 12 foot long or something. This huge thing, and had he wanted to squash me against the boat, he could have squashed me like a bug. And then he just sort of, he went down underneath, and he just sort of turned on his belly like this. What do you think of this? And beautiful sort of ribbed belly, white belly. The most remarkable. That was the one most, the most. I've had lots of great days at sea, but that takes the biscuit.
Actually, that sounds pretty remarkable, and I bet you thought of Jonah in the whale for a bit too. But can you give us an insight what it's like to be acting with animated characters like Peter Rabbit and the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park?
Yes. It's actually takes a lot more acting than you think. For instance, I remember there's a scene in the first Jurassic where I've got the 2 kids, I've got one in each hand, and it's just described to us, okay, the Gallimimus are massing over on that hill, and now they're turning left, and now it's getting scary, and you better start running, and just look around you, because you'll be seeing Gallimimus that aren't there now, but you will see them later. And then I think a T-Rex turns up in that scene, and the T-Rex was actually, they'd given Spielberg a long pole about the height of a T-Rex with a tennis ball on it. And he said, I'm going to help you with this. I've got a tennis ball here, so you've got an eye line. And when I roar, that's your time to look at the T-Rex. So we're terrified of the Gallimimus. We're going to get trampled to death. And then you heard this roar, and then there's Spielberg on a megaphone going, roar, roar. And, you know, there's a tennis ball right up there. It's actually, that's an acting challenge, is not to laugh. You know, it was such a ridiculous sight. Stephen on a bullhorn.
Taking it too seriously. Look, you mentioned, if we can just turn to a serious topic, that very early in your childhood you had a stutter, and that in your childhood and schooling. Can you tell us about, you know, living with that that speech impediment and how you eventually overcame it? It's quite an inspirational story.
I'm not entirely sure how I overcame it. I hadn't thought about it for some years. It was just sort of organically, when I started acting, I realized that I wasn't stammering on stage. And that was one of the reasons that I got interested in acting, is as soon as I was performing, I didn't stutter at all. I have a friend, this is quite common in among actors. I have a friend called Ian McNeice, who's big chubby fellow. I don't know if you watch Doc Martin. He's always got a beanie on, and he's a big chummy jovial chap. He's always in every series. He has the worst stammer of anyone I know. But as soon as he starts acting, it goes, it disappears. And I think probably learning to speak clearly on stage sort of bled into it gave me the confidence to actually speak. And because I spent a lot of my childhood pretty silent, particularly with adults, because they asked me a question, I would start stammering, and I'd want to be anywhere but in that room. So I just avoid people, so in case they ask me a question. But it's a curious thing, stammering. My mother always used to think it was because I got whooping cough when I was 3 or 4 or something, and I nearly died. But and that was the story I always had. And then one of my children, my youngest daughter, had a terrible stammer when she started to talk, and we took her to a speech therapist and said, "We're you know, this is problematic. Can you help us?" And she said, "The first thing I want to ask you is, did either of you, the parents, stammer as a child?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." She said, "Well, that's it. It's often an inherited condition." And that was completely new to me. I'd never heard that before. And she said, "Yes, we can treat this. We will give her and you," my daughter was perhaps 2 or 3 at the time, "we'll give you vocal exercises. And as long as you do this every day, this will go." And we were very conscientious about it. And within 6 months, you couldn't shut her up. And I was kind of hoping for the stammer again, because
To come back.
Yeah, never stopped talking ever since.
Oh my goodness. Yes, look, children, how wonderful. Look, can we perhaps turn the topic as you're continuing on with your serial towards business and the way forward? Look, it's breakfast television, Sam, so not a problem. But you were quoted recently as saying you've always thought that making wine is being in the cheering up business. I love that. But you felt you now have this responsibility to entertain people on social media, because the world at the moment is just so miserable. So in the context of your cinema Quarantino mini movies that are now being released on social media, can you perhaps talk to us about how you see the world of acting and entertaining emerging from this global pandemic?
Well, we've all had to be a little bit flexible. Everybody has, not just entertainers. I'm very concerned about my colleagues in the arts in general, and in particularly in the performing arts, because we always seem to be so dispensable and long and very easily ignored. I'm very concerned about, there doesn't seem to be any, I'm here in Australia, and I'm sure this is true. Not so much in New Zealand, is my understanding. I'm a little out of touch because I'm here, but these great institutions like the Australian Ballet, the Opera, the Sydney Theatre Company, the Melbourne Theatre Company, all these great institutions are under severe pressure, because you can't perform unless you've got an audience, and with no audience, there's no income. And on a personal level, so many of my fellow actors haven't worked for months, and they've got no prospect of work for the rest of the year, and they haven't been able to get onto JobKeeper like so many others. So it's desperate times for people in the performing arts in particular, and in the rest of the arts. I mean, I'm an avid art collector. I love encouraging young artists, but of course, people are very understandably concerned about their own incomes, and a bit of extra art is about the last thing that a lot of people will be able to afford in the next coming weeks or months or years. I don't know. So yeah, I'm as far as the social media with me went, I just did. It sort of started. I mean, I've been doing Twitter and things for many years, just for fun, and it's something to do when you're sitting around in a trailer waiting for the next thing to happen on a film. It's actually quite fun to tweet, and you get lots of reactions. But the reactions I was getting to people, well, I was just sort of saying, look, we will get through this. We'll work out how to do it. Isolation is the only way we can, and it's always been the only way with any pandemic. And we've had centuries of these things. It's a different virus, but we've had very challenging times before. We must isolate, and I realized that people, with the reactions I was getting, that people in isolation were incredibly fearful and anxious, and scared, just scared. So I was sort of, if I could cheer people up just a little bit, I thought that was a worthwhile thing to do. So, and as much as anything, I was feeling those things as well, of course, we all were. So it was just making little films. I realized I could make stupid films with my friends, even if we weren't in the same country. We'd just shoot ourselves on our iPhones and then get another friend to cut them together and make little films. Or I'd play the ukulele or tell some stories. But mostly it was just sort of, because the news was also bleak. It's still bleak today. And anything that's a distraction from that. I think we're now much more aware of mental health than we ever were. And isolation was having a really adverse effect on so many, on people's mental health everywhere. So, I'm not a trained psychologist or anything. I'm not an expert in anything, and I'm not very good at much. But I was just, if I could offer some words of comfort, and then perhaps it might help someone. So that's how all that started.
Thank you.
Well, I tell you what, it's been very, very entertaining for us all to watch, Sam. But, you know, I think you've aptly described, you know, that artists are freelancers and they are falling through the cracks, and the times are very, very hard for them. And, you know, the hardest thing with the arts being in trouble is, and like all of us that are here, are all testament that we love to go and see a movie and to go to a production and to have, you know, people going through these hard times. But we do want to recognise that you give very generously, and today's event is to support the Actors Benevolent Fund. And I think, you know, you've given your advice. Basically, we've just got to keep on keeping going, don't we? And it's the only way forward out of this crisis. So, you know, we can only, you know, wish all the actors all the very, very best during this time. Yeah. And we'll definitely be out in force once it's over.
It's going to be very interesting. You know, we've all had time to reflect on things. I was thinking this morning, as I was stirring myself out of bed, how important organisations like Rotary will be, because community, I think, it will be everything. Especially in the sort of small towns and so on that I'm familiar with, where I come from. And we can't expect the government to do everything. We do need the government to do a lot. And, you know, there's been a tendency in the last 20 or 30 years to say, oh, get government out of our life. We don't need to pay taxes. And just leave us alone. The market knows best. But actually, it's when something like this happens, you realize, oh yeah, we really do need government. We really need good governance. And it's in the countries where the virus is considerably less of a problem than others. We know where we're talking about, and that we're having success with the virus. And in other places which are not so well run, it's catastrophic. So, yep, I'm all for government, and I'm all for. I think it's more important than ever that we think about our communities, and we think about how we're who's going to be in charge in Wellington or Canberra or London or wherever it is, you know.
Look, Sam, you touched on a really good point there when you talked about Rotary and like communities like that. I think that, you know, again, we're in touch with Rotarians right across various countries, 5 countries this morning, who are watching you. But we know that we haven't had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people desert clubs. And in fact, there are new clubs starting up. In fact, there are people joining Rotary and wanting to get involved. And I'm sure it's the same in other like-minded community organisations, because they can see that whilst government is wonderful and marvellous, says he with his tongue in his cheek, and necessary, that it's going to be at that grassroots level where help is needed. You know, today our funds are being directed to the Actors Benevolent Fund, but often we are raising money for Australian Rotary Health. Australian Rotary Health is one of the largest contributors, one of the largest non-government contributors to mental health research in Australia, and has PhD scholarships, all sorts of wonderful work that's coming up, particularly dealing with the youth of Australia. So again, I think as we have seen some large multinational charities who've had to restrict staff, the wonderful thing about something like Rotary is it's all volunteers. All volunteers. Yeah. None of us are receiving any payment at all. Maybe the occasional sausage off the barbecue, Sam. But that's just between you and me, Sam. Don't tell anybody else that high level corruption is going on at all. So look, let's return to your Australian Story interview. Now, you are an employer, and you touched on this before when you talked about the chemicals that you're using. You told your Australian Story interviewer that you didn't want to be remembered so much for your wine or so much for your movies, but for being kind. Now, in the light of being the boss, the proprietor of your vineyard, what practical advice have you got for people who are in positions of leadership, many of whom are watching this morning, because you are responsible for employees? What practical advice can you give them as we move into a very uncertain future?
Leadership's a really interesting thing, isn't it? I come and go, obviously, a lot from the vineyard. But I'm very fortunate. Mike Wing runs the vineyards. He was a young bloke who was working for me. My previous vineyard manager was, he was good, but he suddenly decided he got a better job somewhere. And he said, I'm going to Australia. And I said, what? He said, yeah, I've got a better job and I'm moving. I said, okay. So how long I was assuming he'd be there for another 3 months and we'd have an orderly changeover. I said, when are you going? He said, 2 weeks. So I found myself in a very, I was busy on a film. I managed to get home for the weekend to sort this out. And this young bloke, Mike, who'd become his sort of more or less his number two, he'd started at the very bottom, hadn't had any wine experience prior to working with us. I said, Richard, I think we've advertised, but I'm actually thinking that Mike would be the guy to promote. He said, oh, no, mate, no, he's not ready. He's too young. And I thought, if Richard says that, I think I might just, and he's twice as good as Richard. And what he's got is he just talks quietly and he leads from the front. Richard used to stay in the office all the time, especially when it was cold. But Mike is always the first man out there and leading by example. And I think there's a sort of lesson in that the more remote leadership is, the less effective it is. And leading by example is immensely effective, and that he's very much loved. We have a lot of permanent staff, and we have casual staff that come through. That's going to be actually problematic for us as it is so many in Australia and New Zealand. We very much depend on seasonal labour from Vanuatu and backpackers and so on. No one quite knows what's going to happen with all that. But I'm getting away from the subject there. But
you talked about leading by example, not being remote, being kind. Anything else that you feel, as an employer, we should be particularly looking towards the future? With this pandemic.
Look, I think as in all relationships, listening is the most important thing. Giving commands is one thing, but listening is actually really listening to people's concerns. Not all of them will be useful. But I think listening is a great thing, and but yeah, it's we live in uncertain times. I think if I'm to give an optimistic note, and it's difficult to be optimistic. I mean, I was looking at the ABC last night, and they keep saying, oh, 8% unemployment figures. It's never been as bad as this. But one of these economists was saying that if you put in all the people on job seeker and job keeper on it, it's actually something like 24% unemployment in Australia, which is astounding. Now, that's going to take a long time to recover, a long time to get jobs up and generating again. But, every setback is also an opportunity, and there will be people who will see, who understand that the old models aren't necessarily going to work anymore. But you've got to work out what people need and what people really want, and that's where the opportunities are going to be. Tourism is going to be a very problematic thing, and where I live, where I grow my wine, we're very dependent on tourism, as are so many other places in the world.
Yes.
Our brothers and sisters around the Pacific, where I was with the Cook tour, I'm very concerned for them because they're so dependent on tourism now. So,
we can but hope that Australia, New Zealand, Pacific Island bubble opens up reasonably soon. We're from Melbourne, Sam, so we don't actually care about rugby and all. We mean it in a caring way for our Kiwi cousins.
Actually, Sam, you're talking about unemployment, and during the isolation, we've learned to refine some of our skills and talents during this period of time. Some of us have learned to make sourdough bread. Some have learned how to paint and write poetry. But you finally honed your skills in singing and the ukulele. We've had some requests for you to provide us with a rendition of one of your favourite tunes on the ukulele. Have you got it with you?
Oh, I can find it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Excellent, Sam. Your fans are waiting. Both of them have tuned in.
Oh dear. Just as well as breakfast wasn't a hot cooked one, and I think it'd be very, very cold by now.
Look, I think it would, but look, here we go. The man himself with
even the
ukulele.
Words.
Look, Sam, in preparing this and putting all this together, we were going to say that we had thousands and thousands of requests for your ukulele, but despite that, we'd still like you to play.
Well, I think really what the ukulele is about. I do recommend if you are stuck in the house again, buy yourself a uke. It's a cheap instrument, and it takes no particular skill. Well, if I can play it, anyone can. But I don't play it well. And I think the liberating thing about being stuck in a pandemic is no one else can hear you. And my friend Brian Brown is learning guitar. Oh my God, he doesn't have a musical impulse in his body. Just absolutely brutal. But he's got stickability. He's running with it. And I've just been staying with them up on their farm up on the North Coast. And we had these jam sessions that were absolutely catastrophic, but we all had fun. But the other thing about the other lesson I've been trying to imbue is that you don't need to play well. Just have to give it a bash. And the same as my painting. I mean, I've always done a few little watercolors and things. Oh, I don't have any here.
They must have all sold. They must have sold to art critics.
That's right. I do sell some for charity once in a while. but again, I'm not a very good painter, and but why not give it a bash? Anyway, since you requested,
yes,
I just found this Johnny Cash song, which I've always liked. Which I love Johnny Cash. That just sort of. Oh, there was a great quote. I don't know if any of you have seen. It was a Ken Burns documentary, a 6-parter, and I still haven't seen about 4 parts of it. And it's about country music. And there's a great quote at the beginning. I can't remember who says it, but a great country singer who's asked, "What is country music?" And the same applies to the blues, really. The answer is 3 chords and the truth. and the chords are, and this is one of those, really. Anyway, I'll play it.
Excellent.
I have to look at the words. I have sailed the peaceful waters of the ocean deep and blue. I held my breath and watched the western sunset's golden hue. It's an early song of Johnny Cash, obviously. I've flown among the mountain peaks and valleys wide and green, but you're the nearest thing to heaven that I've seen. You're the nearest thing to heaven, yes you are. I've searched for happiness so long and far, but my search for love was through. The day that I found you, you're the nearest thing to heaven, yes you are. I sang that.
Well done.
Sam, that's indescribable. Thank you. We're Rotarians. We've been kind and caring. Sam, look, we greatly appreciate you because it's so much more interesting than watching you paint a painting, hearing you sing. And we're actually having calls right now as we speak. There are calls coming in from right around the world, and people are already starting to curate their Spotify accounts, searching for your ukulele-led recovery music, Sam. It's fantastic. It's fantastic to see. Now, look, as we're moving towards the end of our time together, and usually at our business breakfast, we've been running these for many, many years. You talked about doing things differently. We've done face-to-face breakfast for the last 10 or 12 years or so. This is our very first Zoom business breakfast. And we usually present a bottle of wine to our guest speaker, apart from supporting their charity. And we'd love to send you some wonderful Australian wine for a change, Sam, but oh dear, we can't. So, and apparently you grow wine from time to time. Much expensive, Neill, but we won't hold that against you. So look, we've taken careful note of your advice about being kind. And so we at Rotary, we prepared a very special gift of kindness to bestow on you today. And I hand over to Marg.
This is getting on to the serious side of things now, Sam. So it's with great pleasure, the Rotary Club of Cromwell near your home in New Zealand have resolved to make you an honorary Rotarian member of their club. The current president, Neill McRae on the left, and incoming president, Pam Broadhead on the right, would in normal circumstances welcome you in person to their club. However, on your return home, an envelope will be waiting for you containing material about Rotary, its 1.2 million members, its global works of community service and kindness. In addition, you will find certificates of membership. Club name badges and other material will be presented to you in person when they arrange you to attend a club meeting and welcome you in person. They are especially keen to talk to you about you being the first patron of the Cromwell Ukulele and Pinot Noir Festival. Would you care to say a few words to your new BFFs at the Cromwell Rotary Club and any closing remarks?
Well, I'm very touched. I'm very touched to hear from Crommy at all, but particularly from the Cromwell Rotary Club, and that's a very kind thought. And I look forward to meeting you. And do you do a T-shirt? I love it. I love it. All I ask is a T-shirt, with the Rotary thing.
Cap, T-shirt, you'll have that. And there are two really good benefits to this. One is that you now join the worldwide band of Rotary, 1.2 million. So you'll never be lonely in a city again.
Yeah.
You too, Sam, will be able to go to a Rotary meeting and enjoy wonderful food.
And do you know what, Sam? You not only get a T-shirt, you'll get a barbecue apron as well.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I much prefer the barbecue to the bain marie. Only Australians know what a bain marie is.
I think now that's the way we're all heading. But look, when you go to your meeting, we're not too sure if the Rotary Club of Cromwell have actually thought about the Ukulele and Pinot Noir Festival, but as Australians, we thought it'd be a great thing to do, Sam. So Come on, got to get your act together with all that, and let's see what we can do.
Come on, Cromwell. I know we can do it.
He'd dob you in for anything, Sam. He's just that kind of person. But anyway, it gives me great pleasure now to introduce President of the Rotary Club of Rowville Listerfield, Mr. Rajiv Wada, to express our thanks and to close proceedings.
Thank you.
How interesting and engaging was that chat. Thank you, Sam, for making time and taking the initiative to help people struggling in the entertainment industry. I'm glad we could help make this a reality. I must point out, Sam, that this isn't a small step. This is significant. Rotarians and others all around the world are watching. There are over 150 people from all over Australia and New Zealand. There are some from as far as Austria, St. Martin's, and the US. Success of this webinar will leave clues for others to follow suit, become bolder, and think creatively to reach out to people and help our struggling communities. On behalf of Rotary Club of Rowville Lesterfield, I thank you once again, Sam. I would also like to thank our audience for their support and hope we will see you again in future.
Thank you very much, Rajiv. And thank you, Darryl. Thank you, Margaret. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, no, it's been really, really beautiful. Sam, we've thoroughly enjoyed it. So it's time to close. So it's goodbye from me, Mark Veazey, and now I'll give the final word to Darryl. He gets it anyway, Sam. So.
Oh, Sam, they're so unkind to me. What can I say? But Sam, we've raised over $3,600 with this event, and again, it'll be going to the Actors Benevolent Fund. We can't tell you how much we appreciate your support this morning. Your incredible generosity has meant that we're able to do this event. And for Rotary clubs and other clubs at the moment, it's very difficult. We can't do the normal things we do for fundraising. So you've giving so generously of your time and your superb efforts on the ukulele.
I can only apologise for those.
No, superb was the only word I could find quickly. What did Benny Hill, remember Benny Hill? Benny Hill used to say, if I hadn't have seen it, I wouldn't have believed it.
That's right.
But Sam, we can't tell you again how much we appreciate you giving up your time this morning. We really appreciate it. We've done wonderful things. We hope that you stay safe. We hope that cough is just a cough and it's not anything more serious. So you stay safe.
Yeah, I think it's the old hay fever thing. I had a childhood with a stammer and hay fever. The stammer went away, The hay fever's there for life.
Oh, dearie me. Well, look, there you go. Look, Sam, we're going to have to close it up because we're all dashing to our Spotify accounts immediately. And some of us are going to be sampling your product at lunchtime today. Sam,
Thanks,
we really
guys.
appreciate it. Thank you again. Have a great day. And it's goodbye from Melbourne, Australia. Bye-bye.
Thank you again. Bye.
Thanks.